Hello, everyone. I'm Tony.
And I'm Alex,
And we're Inside Information. Today we'll be discussing Chronicle. Tell me about it, Alex.
Chronicle. Chronicle was directed by Josh Trank and released in February of 2012.
2012? Is that old?
It's
I thought it was like a 2015
It looks
film.
like it's a more
Yeah.
modern film, but it was actually made 10 years ago. It had a budget of 15 million and made over 100 million of its budget.
100 yeah, that's
racking
a
up,
pretty good profit.
126. And it was originally meant to be NC-17. You know that, right?
NC-17, yeah, like
Or R.
the rating above R.
Yeah,
where
but
like
they
only
actually-
17-year-olds and over can go, I believe.
But they decided to change it to PG-13 so it could be open for more audiences.
Yeah, obviously.
When it was made, yeah.
Yeah, of
It
course.
actually debuted also at #1 in the box office.
Yeah, good thing they changed it to PG-13, or else that would have not happened.
Yeah.
But good for them. And so the thing I like about that movie is the three characters, which we'll get into a little later. But for now, we'll start. What did you think about Andrew at the beginning of the film?
Andrew at the beginning of the film. I mean, I think we all had a bit of a, pity for him. I don't know if the pity is the right word. We all had pity for him because of his poor living situation, how his mother was dying of cancer, and how his father was, abusive, let's put it like that. And he would hit him and attack him verbally as well.
Yes.
And so I think we all felt a bit of pity for him. And I know I did too. And that brings me into another point, Matt, his cousin. I think Matt at the beginning of the film, he was really just trying to, bring life to Andrew because he saw how down his cousin was. And so he was trying to help him throughout the entirety of that portion of the film. That's why he would push him to be more social, bring him to events and other things like that so that they could be together and Andrew could have more friends and know more people.
Yeah, he had good intentions.
He had good
For
intentions.
his cousin. So that's good. It's a shame what happens later on. Which
Yeah.
we'll be discussing. And what did you think about the situation, like that? How his mother had cancer and the father was abusive. Do you want to elaborate a little more?
Well, I mean,
How that could affect someone mentally.
mentally, I think anybody, if they were subjected to constant abuse and being put down, being thought of as inferior by a person as important
parents.
as your father,
Yeah,
then I think that would probably affect someone
that's
negatively.
a good origin story.
Yeah, it's a
for
pretty
villainy.
good background story for a villain.
Yeah,
And
it doesn't justify it, but
doesn't.
yeah, that's a shame. That happens, and it happens in real life too, which is the sad
Yeah.
part. But for the most part, they don't become super villains. And did you think his cousin Matt was trying to help at first?
I do.
Like he had noble intentions. You believe?
I do think he had noble intentions. I don't think he was trying to just get his cousin to be with him so that he could just throw him to the side, if you know what I mean. Just
Yeah.
sort of keep him there and let him grow as a person as well. So because Matt was more of a social person, he was
Right.
more successful, if you want to put it like that.
Yes.
In
More
that
outgoing.
way, more
and,
outgoing, more
extroverted. Yes.
And he knew his cousin wasn't. So I think his whole intention was to get his cousin to be like him, but his cousin wasn't like him. So I think that may have been something that also pushed him to the edge.
And a little later into the film, they find a hole. What did you think about it when you saw it?
So when they found the hole, they were at a party. I remember that a girl threw a drink on Andrew and he was crying outside. And that's actually when they introduced Steve Montgomery, who was played by Michael B. Jordan in that
Nice.
film.
I like that guy.
Yeah. He was a popular kid in there. He was running for class president, I believe. And so they introduced him and he asked Andrew if he can record, because Andrew was walking around with a camcorder, I believe that's what
camcorder,
you
yes.
call it. And he was just recording everything. And so he found Andrew outside and he told him, come with me, and if we found this really cool thing, and can you record it, please? And so when they go find the hole, I think it was kind of notorious in a way. Like, it was foreshadowing what was going to happen.
Yes.
Because of the whole situation. I mean, I don't know about you, but if I ever find a hole in the middle of a forest, I don't think I'll go after it.
I think I might, just to expect it,
Really?
I mean, yeah, a big hole, like maybe Superman landed, or
Maybe.
Brightburn guy. And do you think they should have gone in the hole?
No,
Yeah.
I don't think they should have gone in at all. I think that actually explains, like, that is, like, pretty ideology is very well put
Yeah.
in the hole. Just to go ahead of myself a bit, they go in the hole because, of course, it's a movie. They're gonna do
Yeah,
that,
of course, there wouldn't be
and
a movie,
so
you know, if
they
they didn't do
wouldn't. They
that.
wouldn't have really a plot if they didn't do that.
Yeah.
And so when they did, I mean, you could see yourself. I think it was Matt who started having a nosebleed, and then Steve is thrown across. Or I might have the characters confused, but
Yes.
one of them starts having a nosebleed, and the
Uh-huh.
other one is thrown across the cave
Yeah.
after they find this weird glowing huge object in the middle of it, and then the camcorder goes to static. Like there's
yeah,
nothing
static.
anymore.
That's usually not a good sign.
Yeah, that's
And,
not a good sign.
And what do you think happened in the cave?
I don't. I think the director made a good choice by leaving that part up to the viewer, but my interpretation of it is that sort of they all sort of fainted in a way,
Yeah.
and they just woke up again outside. Like,
But
I don't
like
know
they
how
did
else to
stuff
put
in
it.
the cave, but it left it all into the mind of the audience. But do you think anything specifically happened? Like
I
they
think-
absorbed energy.
I
or
think
something?
the whole weird glowing thing. I don't know how else to put it.
Yeah.
I'm sorry,
Nah,
but
it's
I think
alright.
its energy sort of went into them, and that's what gave them their abilities later
Oh,
on in the
nice.
film, and that's what I think
Yeah,
happened.
I mean, I think that's pretty, makes sense to think that, considering, the glowy thing, everything goes static.
Yeah.
That would be a good assumption. Do you think they would have been as close friends without their powers? Like they're close friends already. Like with their powers, it only brought them closer. So do you think they would like,
Well, I mean, Matt and Steve were close friends then,
Yeah.
but I don't know. Well, I wouldn't say close. I would just say friends.
I mean,
but Andrew was sort
yeah.
of that outlier, and so I think the powers really helped the three of them come together. I think
Yeah.
that's really what joined them. I think that's what gave Andrew. No, I know that's what gave Andrew more confidence when he saw that these two popular people who he thought were so great before
Yeah.
couldn't control their powers as well as he did.
Yeah.
I think that's probably.
And so then he
what-
probably saw himself as superior to everyone. And
I think that slowly built up his ego to the point of explosion, where
yeah.
we'll discuss that later in the video.
Yes, of course. And what did you think when Andrew sent that man into a pond?
Well, I don't know if it was accidental or not. I think because if you see the film, you can see that he said, "Okay, check this out," and then he motions his hand like this, and the car goes into the pond.
Oh.
His face isn't filled with immediate shock. It's more of the screams of others that shock him.
So it wasn't like on purpose, or do you
I-
think it was on purpose?
They in the film they say that it wasn't on purpose, but I think in some way it was.
Yeah.
I think Andrew was just doing that and trying to see what his friend's reaction would be, because in the original plot of the film, they wanted to make all three villains evil.
Yeah.
I like all three characters evil.
All three.
That's bad.
Yeah.
Yeah, and so I think that sort of gives a little insight into that, and that's what Andrew was trying to think. I think that's when Andrew started to see himself as more powerful, and that's why he wanted to see how will they react when this happens.
Yes.
And after that situation, when the man with the car goes into the pond and they rescue the man,
Yes.
they all decide to keep their powers more hidden, and I think that may have been that was a really important part of it.
Yes. And do you think it was the best idea for him to do the talent show a little later?
Talent show. Talent show was okay. Even though he had the powers,
Yeah.
Matt knew, and so did Steve, that he was still not exactly the most outgoing and popular person. So I think
Yeah.
that's why they pushed him to do the talent show. But I don't know if it was the best idea, because in the talent show he used his powers to sort of perform magic in a way, and
Yeah.
everyone in the school was in awe of him. But then after everyone in the school was in awe of him, he wanted to be with the girl and ended up throwing up on her, and she left him in disgust. And I think that also
Attributed to
affected
his,
him negatively,
yeah.
of course. And
To-
so I think that's one of the big reasons why he also turned evil, because in that moment he's also screamed and slammed the door at Steve, who was one of his closest friends.
Yes. Do you think Steve should have gone and tried to help Andrew?
Okay, well, in the film, I think Andrew knocks back his father, and at that moment, after his father threatens him, and he uses his powers against his father, I don't remember it too well. I'm sorry.
That's
And then
alright.
he goes up and flies into the clouds, And at that moment, Steve, he's crying there, and Steve goes up to him, flying, because now they've discovered the ability to fly, and he tries to console Andrew and tell him to calm down. But then a lightning storm starts brewing, which obviously is representative of what's going to happen.
Yes.
And so at that moment, when Andrew tells him to leave him alone, lightning strikes Steve Montgomery, and then the clip cuts to them at Steve's funeral.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
I don't know if it was the best idea for Steve to do that.
I mean,
but
obviously
think it
not,
would've
but like
been
the
worse.
weather.
I think it would have been worse if he hadn't gone
Yeah.
up there, because I don't know if so much about the weather is what killed Steve.
Yeah.
I think it might have been Andrew, because also if you see him at the funeral, he apologizes to Steve's
Right.
tombstone. So I think that if Steve hadn't gone up, Andrew probably would have done something far worse, like maybe attack a building or make something, some characteristic.
Yeah.
So I think that it was a good idea that Steve went up to
No,
talk
I
to him.
don't. I mean, I think it would have been better if he didn't go up there, because then, as you'll see later on in the film, it's the bad guy against the good guy essentially, you know. But if Michael B. Jordan's character was still alive, he could have defeated the evil, along with the good. But now that it's just 1-on-1, it makes the fight more fair, of course. But like the good would have been would have
More
had
overpowering.
more leverage over the bad, and they probably would have had a better chance at stopping,
Yeah,
evil.
they did stop him at the end of the day, but they would have been less destruction and less,
Yes.
type
And,
death.
And like, which out of the three you think was most powerful?
I mean, I think that's obviously Andrew, because you can see first of all, he killed Steve. That's my opinion. We don't really know, but
Yeah.
I think he killed Steve. And I think like it also demonstrated his power at near the end of the film, because he sort of almost destroyed a city
Yeah.
entirely just by himself,
Yeah, that's kind of like in Brightburn.
like a Brightburn type
Yeah.
thing. I think he was more powerful
Yes.
out of the three.
And did you think like the ending was good? Like,
Okay,
to elaborate
so
on that.
in the movie, after he tries to rob a gas station, he accidentally blows it up and ends up in the hospital.
Oh yeah.
That's when his father starts berating him, that he blames him for his wife's death, because his wife died. He reveals that to him too.
Yeah.
And then he wakes up and attacks and nearly throws his father off of a hospital building.
Yeah.
And so I think that after he's tried to destroy it and his cousin goes there to fight him, I think that when he was about to destroy the city, I think it would have been, I don't know, I don't think they did him justice with that type of death,
Yeah.
because they put him as such a powerful person, yet he died in such a simple way that just makes you think maybe he wasn't as powerful as the movie wanted him to look, because he tried destroying the city and all his cousin had to do was swipe like that, and a spear of a statue went through him.
Yeah.
I don't know if that was the best way to end the film, and well, not end the film, but end
But
the
climax
character.
it.
Yeah,
Yeah.
because at the end of the film, also his cousin goes to Tibet, where they wanted to go, all three of them together, and he leaves the camcorder there after an emotional farewell speech.
Yeah.
So
Very, very
I
interesting.
think that was a good
Alex.
ending, but I don't know if
Yeah, I think it was a good ending too. From what I saw, I mean, it made kind of sense, that the spirit would kill him, because he's not like Superman. He's not made of steel. He's just a normal guy with superpowers who has, I'm sure he has healing abilities, but not, but if something goes through you, get penetrated.
But wouldn't
really hard
you
to come
think
back from
that for a villain that powerful, he would have noticed something and tried to stop
Yeah,
it?
probably, but
Yeah.
whatever, right? And would you have done it differently? To elaborate on why you didn't like it that much.
Well, I love the movie. I just didn't like that part.
That
much.
part. Would you change that part?
I think
in any way?
I think I would, but I don't have an idea that I would say is, is as acceptable as that. But
Yeah. All right.
same.
And how did the movie make you feel?
I mean,
Like its atmosphere, it's kind of like a
I
little bit
think
like the
it's
Blair.
a bit gloomy, to
bit
put it
gloomy?
like that.
It reminds me of the Blair Witch Project a little bit, in the sense that like the camcorder records a lot of the movie's events. So it's like it feels like feels like actually like it's happening, but like
Yeah.
just a bunch of like a few kids are just recording it on the camera. So I really like that. Not a lot of movies do that.
So to touch on that, Tony, did you like the camera work, like that version of camera work, more than if it had been recorded like another movie, like how they record movies?
I mean, I like when movies take a different approach to things. So in this case, I liked the camcorder, and their use of it. But like, of course, I wouldn't have mind the alternative, which is how usually it goes, where a third party camera is recording them from
Yeah,
a fourth
from,
dimensional realm. But yeah, I don't. They're both really good options. But in this case, I think the camcorder worked better at
So
what it
do
was
you
trying to
think
do.
movies with the camcorder recording style
Uh-huh.
are usually more popular or less popular? Because we also have
Less
to
popular.
bring in a few other movies that were
Uh-huh.
recorded like that.
Yeah.
To name a few,
Halloween Resurrection was recorded like that, and I did not like it at all.
The Bay was also recorded like that,
Yeah.
and Paranormal Activity as well.
Mm-hmm.
There are a few like that.
Yeah.
And why do you think they're not as popular?
Probably because people aren't used to it. You know, people don't like change. They like the thing that happens all the
usual
time.
four
A
dimensions.
little similar to Marvel. Yeah, you know, but like, I still like Marvel. But it's like Marvel kind of has a formula for each movie: good guy, bad guy, good guy defeats bad guy type thing. Which, you know, I don't mind, but like that, a lot of people like that formula.
Yeah.
And do you think this was Josh Trank's best film?
Josh Trank also made the most recent Fantastic Four film.
You mean Fan Four Stick?
I,
What it says on the poster. Nah, bro, that movie sucks.
that was a pretty
I mean,
bad
it
movie, in
stinks.
my opinion.
And but Michael B. Jordan's in it, and he's also in this film. So
Yeah, I
that's
think they-
kind of an interesting
Yeah,
trivia
and
question.
also I don't remember the actor's name, but the one who played Mr. Fantastic auditioned for this movie,
Uh-huh.
and he was rejected. But then
Miles
later
Teller?
cast. I believe so.
Yeah.
Yeah, and then they recast him. They put him in this recent film as
Oh, nice.
that. So I think that was sort of nice of Josh Trank to mention him at least.
And
in
what
one
would you
of
rate
his
the
films.
film?
I would give it a 9. I really enjoyed this film. I thought it was well made, well thought out, and well, pretty much planned to put
Yeah.
it like that.
Yeah, I mean, I'd give it a good rating too, based on what I've seen. I didn't watch the entirety of the film, but I've seen a good amount to have a well formulated opinion on it, and so I'd give it a 8, an 8
Okay.
for, especially for the type of style they're going for, and the characters were great, acting was pretty good, and I like the cinematography, and I think that's about it, right, Alex?
Yeah.
Have anything else to add?
No, sir.
No. Thank you, everyone, for joining us on this week's episode. Next week, we'll have another good film for you. And we'll join you next week. Bye.